are we live, Gavin? Are you thumbs upping me because we're live now?
Yes.
My gosh. Well, there we go. It's live. We're 2 minutes late now, Gavin. Can you believe that?
You just started at random. I don't know
didn't
what to tell
start
you.
at random, Gavin. It was exactly what it needed to be. Hey, look at that. It's live. Wow.
I had just sat down
Mm-hmm.
to
Yep.
back from getting my alcoholic beverage.
Right.
And you just pressed start. You pressed record as
I
if
did
this
do
was
that.
something we would be doing.
Yeah. Well,
I wasn't
it is
ready.
what we're doing.
So
Yeah, and you repeatedly assured me that you were not ready, and yet I hit the button anyway. So what does that say about how ready we were? Oh my gosh, is that your fiance? Hi, Gavin's fiance. Hi. Hi, Gavin's fiance. Hello.
she thought we were arguing.
Sounds like I'm like, what is he getting upset about?
Russell went live when I wasn't ready.
I know, and you kind of kept saying that, and you got like a little louder the second time. So
Because he wasn't listening.
here is flag on the play. Calm down, Gavin.
Okay.
Wow,
it's my
look at
fault
that.
again.
Hey, Gavin, you'll get used to that, especially in the next 6 days or so. But
yeah, I will.
Hey, good news for you, Gavin. Ready for this? I have
Let's
great
do it.
news for you.
Let's
The
hear
good news is you can hear this.
All right.
Just for you, Gavin. There you go. A wonderful live intro.
That is just
And-
a bop, man. He did such a good
And-
job.
I know. It was really good. I'm always very happy with it. Well, hey, Gavin, I want to say happy Monday to you. Happy Monday to everyone else watching this live. If you're not watching this live, if you're listening back to this recording at a later date, happy whatever day this is. Whenever we put this out, we put out an episode on Monday, our wonderful Meeting of the Minds episode 2, backed by absolutely no demand at all, but it's there. Now, we are, of course, going to continue to have to do that also by no demand. So, hey, if you liked it, let us know. We'll do more of those sooner. If you didn't like it, do another one next year. I don't know. We'll see.
I was a little disappointed that you didn't invite me. I will say
You
that.
were invited, Gavin. I told you when it was happening.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember this.
We had the same conversation, too, about it.
That I wasn't invited?
No, that you were like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you can be there if you want.
Hmm.
And sure enough,
Is this another one of those Geico flag on the play moments where
no, because I don't think your fiance can come in, throw a flag on the play in real time.
or I guess the flag is it's the
It's the red challenge flag. It's
challenge
what
flag.
really happened. Yeah. This podcast not sponsored by Geico, for the record. But it could be.
Again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again.
If you're a Geico marketing executive and you would like to reach out.
But Russell, what I did do is I did schedule the episode, and I promised to do that.
You did promise to do it, and it went up, and it worked perfectly. Chef's kiss.
Yep.
So
I'll have to give it a listen. I'll have to give it a whirl.
yeah, you can.
We definitely need to do more of those
Well,
this season.
I certainly like to hear more voices on the podcast. I hope our listeners enjoyed hearing more voices as well. Gavin, before we dive in, we do have to, of course, answer the important questions for our listeners. What do you have to drink today?
I have another land shark. Still trying to clear out my fridge from that party on December 31st.
We are
New Year's
now
Eve.
in February. But December 31st is New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it was on the 30th. It was
okay.
New Year's Eve. Am I coming through Am I coming through quiet? Am I coming through loud?
No, you sound great.
Okay.
To me, at least.
Well, I've got it low still, because you know how I was coming in hot.
Yeah.
Last week.
Well, you fixed it. Whatever it is that you did. Well done. Truly.
What are you drinking tonight?
Well, I've got some tequila, as always. I've rotated back into some Gran Centenario Añejo. I was drinking some Cuervo Tradicional Cristalino recently, but back to Gran Centenario. One of my favorites. Good tequila.
I hear good things about Gran Centenario, not just from you.
Well, you also see it all over TV. If you watch like TUDN or if you watch any Mexico national team, you'll see that on all the signboards as well, as they are an official sponsor of the Mexico men's national team. Fun fact.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. What's on the docket, boss?
Oh, man. Well, Gavin, I'm glad you asked, because keeping in the spirit of this tequila, Mexico's #1 tequila. Again, not sponsored. Could be, but we're not. So anyways, in keeping with this idea of talking about places that are not the United States, Gavin, in just a few short days, and by a few short days, I'm looking at the calendar, as in tomorrow, we have CONCACAF Champions Cup soccer back for 2024. And I think that's pretty exciting. I think it's worth talking about. And I think between that and one other topic that's evergreen and will never get old, I think that should round out a good discussion tonight. I know you said you wanted to keep this one relatively short. So while we are going to aim to make it short, I'm sure we will go long, because that's just us and we both have problems with time management. And you're shaking your head no, and deep down you're shaking your head yes.
Here's the thing. Usually I would say no and then it'd be a yes. But as you know, Sunday does happen to be a very important day.
The Super Bowl.
Not the Super Bowl. It is my wedding day, so I have things I've got to do.
You're getting married?
I'm getting married. Yeah. So I have a lot of stuff to do. So we're gonna stay on topic. 40 minutes tops. Let's go.
All right.
CONCACAF Champions Cup, is that number one?
Yeah, we're going to start with number one, CONCACAF Champions Cup. Gavin, there's a lot going on with it. They have started essentially the February 6th, which is insane to me because some MLS teams don't even play until the 20th. But February 6th kicks off CONCACAF Champions Cup. You have leading in with Comunicaciones versus Monterrey, as well as Esteli versus Club America, which is insane. That's two heavy hitters, the two probably best teams in Mexico, going on your opening day of Champions Cup. And it's going to wrap up, I think, with the round one matches, eventually kick off with like Cincinnati versus Cavalier, and I think Orlando, Philadelphia. I think that's their first round match in the 27th. Oh, no, they also play on the 21st. So there you go.
No, yeah. Orlando play on the 21st. Philadelphia play on the 20th. I've got it pulled up here. So all the first team to play out of MLS is Vancouver. They were the unlucky MLS team. They are on the 7th. They are in 2 days. Vancouver start. So I know you're pretty excited to see that.
I will be watching it. It's a shame that it appears to be 10 p.m. Eastern time, but it's not that much of a shame because I will still watch it because I am a true MLS 6-0.
I didn't even realize that Champions Cup was coming up, so I'm glad that you brought this up as a topic. I now know I have some plans Wednesday night.
Yeah, well, you've got plans tomorrow night as well, for the record. Tuesday.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Monterrey, Club America on Tuesday.
Oh.
Obviously, Cincinnati fans, we watch in Monterrey to follow Brandon Vasquez, of course.
You think I'm going to watch Liga MX Champions Cup?
Absolutely, I believe you will.
You are fooling yourself. That's definitely not happening.
The only one fooling themselves is you, thinking you're not going to watch it, Gavin. I know you're going to watch it.
It's going to be on YouTube TV? That's the real question.
You'll find a way to watch it. I know you will.
I don't even know how to...
Anyways, Gavin, point being, though, Champions Cup is coming up. We are in the preseason right now for a lot of these teams, though. And some teams have looked pretty rough. Now, there have been a number of these preseason friendlies that are behind closed doors. There are teams that choose not to broadcast it, may as well even not acknowledge that preseason exists. But if you are someone, say, a Vancouver enjoyer or a Vancouver supporter, as they are, how nervous are you that your preseason that may have begun only 2 weeks ago is now going into CONCACAF Champions Cup against Tigres of all teams? I mean, that's not an easy opening round matchup.
Oh yeah, it's not the end of the world for them. They can come out and on top. I don't think it's like it used to be where it's just automatically Liga MX is gonna batter them, especially with the preseason being the case. But it's still an uphill battle for Vancouver, especially it being their first game. It's the 7th. We've only been back for a couple weeks. I'm sure they came back a little bit earlier, but also Vancouver's
Guarantee
business.
they don't have all their moves in.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. Business probably isn't all done. I know they've done some business, but not all of it. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think that it's going to be actually pretty tight. I don't foresee it being a blowout by Tigres or by Vancouver. I could see like a 1-1 or a 1-0 maybe to Tigres, something like that. That would be my prediction because it's so early and Vancouver's gonna want to keep it tight and not give up anything in that first leg.
Yeah. I think as well, another question for me is obviously both of our respective teams are playing in CONCACAF Champions Cup. How important is this competition to you this early in the season? We've seen Seattle go on and they won it, but they gave up a lot of ground in order to do so. I mean, this is not the easiest competition. Look at LAFC. LAFC, again, got a very favorable schedule, got matches moved around. That still wasn't enough to give them the win. I mean, it's a tough competition against some extraordinarily good teams.
I think it's important to every single MLS team in it because I think most MLS teams that make the competition have a shot. They have a shot. Like it's not like over in Europe, where those lower teams they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it. It's just kind of they're making up the numbers. MLS, Liga MX are the two best leagues in North America. They are absolutely they absolutely have a shot. Every single MLS team. So I think every single team needs to be taking it seriously. If they're not, what are you doing in the competition?
This isn't to say that there are teams not taking it seriously, Gavin. However, if you're, say, a Cincinnati fan, I'm not sure how many Cincinnati fans are looking at Champions Cup and saying, this is the most important competition we've ever been in. We need to go win it. It's imperative that we do well. We cannot tolerate anything less than seriously competing and going very far in this competition. And I think that's likely true of multiple teams from the MLS side. Now, let's say you're LAFC from last year. If you're a team that is in their prime, already built out, no more business to be done or minor improvements, maybe you can look at it like that. However, from where the preseason is, from where teams are sitting right now on business being done, from the restrictions that maybe you're under where it's like, well, maybe we're waiting to sell some players, or if you're Orlando, maybe you're trying to figure out what's going on with Duncan McGuire before you can solve some other, player issues. Like, are you going to have McGuire or are you not going to have McGuire? Did you already sign the contract for the person that you thought was going to replace them and now you don't know what can go? Point being, if you have all these other things in the back of your mind, you might not be looking at this competition as we have to win and prioritize it type competition, just based on where the team is right in this moment. And as well, probably the history of the team. Orlando, Cincinnati, neither one of these are inaugural clubs in MLS, right? We're relatively young sides. Is there an appetite that looks at Champions Cup and says, you have to go win this right now, this instant? It's a nice to do type thing. However, I think there is still a lot ahead of quite a number of MLS clubs just due to an age perspective that they might not be ready yet to really prioritize Champions Cup.
I think, yeah, that makes sense. I think some clubs internally will have listed, okay, we want to make it to the quarterfinal round of Champions Cup. Oh, we want to make it to the semifinals. That is our metric for success this season. And then those teams that say we want to win it, we want to make it to the final as their metric of success, are probably, it's not just a nice to have. We are prioritizing this competition. For me, I think all teams should prioritize this competition. Unfortunately, with the state of play in MLS, you can throw away a third of the season and still make a home playoff spot. Like, that's just the state of play we are at. And so why not go all out for the biggest trophy you can win in our region? CONCACAF Champions Cup. That's the pinnacle. Seattle reached the mountaintop of club trophies that they can win in this region. Obviously, they could go on and win Club World Cup, but it took a while just for that to happen. So we'll start here first. So
yeah, maybe a follow-up question to you on this, Gavin. Do you feel like there are any teams that maybe look at Champions Cup with diminished importance, even if slightly, because of Leagues Cup? If you are already going to play against the entirety of Liga MX and you know that whole league, the other top league in North America, and you have every single team from MLS and every single team from Liga MX going to play against each other, maybe you just prioritize that and say, look, we already know that all the other best teams competition-wise are sitting in this other league we're going to see in 5 months. Focus on them then.
I would hope not. I think that would be a bad business decision. I think you don't know what's going to happen between now and July, August timeframe, when the competition happens, in terms of injuries, suspensions, drama, how your team's going to be playing. If you're in the CONCACAF Champions Cup competition, if you are good enough to qualify, you need to be going for it. You need to be not necessarily prioritizing it, dropping all your players for the league, screw the league. You could do that and it'd be fine, but have a right old go at it, as they say. If you're throwing that Champions Cup qualification spot away and then just going for Leagues Cup, for me, Leagues Cup's harder to win, actually, than Champions Cup.
Does that
I
make
think
it a better
so.
trophy? If it's harder
No.
to win,
No. Champions Cup is it's the continental, it's the whole region. Even though I think Leagues Cup is harder, it's more because of the group stage format and then all the games to get to the summit, and it's in the middle of the season. That's why I think it's kind of harder than Leagues Cup. But Leagues Cup has its challenges too. But I say Leagues Cup, prioritize that. Don't just throw that in the bin and then go after Leagues Cup, because you
do you mean Champions
get a spot. Sorry, don't. Yeah. You know what I was talking about.
I knew what you were talking about, Gavin, but did you know what you were talking about?
No, obviously not. Obviously.
Right. Okay. So it's a normal Monday then, is what you're saying.
For sure. Yep.
Okay. For the record, by the way, Gavin, I'm looking at how to watch the Champions Cup. In English, it is on Fox in the United States, and it appears to be on Univision if you want Spanish language.
Okay.
So there you go.
I don't want Spanish language.
Well, you never know. I mean, I may not fully understand the commentary in Spanish language, but I can tell you there's some really good goal calls there.
Oh, yeah. That's for sure.
So, now, Gavin, one other thing I did just want to, question you on. So from a scheduling standpoint, CONCACAF Champions Cup happening obviously in the kind of middle of Liga MX season, not even officially in the MLS season, still in the preseason, right? One, why? Uh, can there not be like a petition to move that back like a month? But two, you know, how I guess how do you justify having such a long season for MLS that starts in February? Like it's a 10-month season for most of these teams. Does the fact that so many teams struggle from MLS shift in your mind the idea that maybe we should look at changing up the calendar for MLS? Or is it this is just the nature of the beast and it's always going to be difficult to play?
I really feel we are coming to a point where the schedule needs to be looked at. Whether it is, and of course they threw Leagues Cup in and it just made it 10 times harder to mess with. But I don't know if it's condensing games, which there's already some really condensed weeks in there, but like more midweek games. I don't know if it's they tried to go the route of less competition, so no Open Cup, failed in that bid.
Good.
And then it's just okay, just change when you start and when you end. And it's like, but there's still the amount of games that they want to play. It just doesn't fit. So I think it is starting to be a problem. I thought MLS actually had a really healthy schedule pre Leagues Cup. You know, when we'd finish around October, November timeframe. You know, the final might be in November, but now we're into December. The final was in December last year.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of teams, they had a good, solid off season, but the best teams went to the final, Columbus and LAFC. Now they have Leagues Cup to prepare for, and so they're starting in February. Now they have another long season to where it could drag into November, December timeframe again. It's not sustainable over a long period of time. I don't know what they're going to do to fix it. They tried to decrease the amount of games. That didn't work. I don't know.
I think one of the big things for me is we say they're trying to decrease the number of games. But if decreasing the number of games is your goal, US Open Cup is such a weird place to start. Because at most, you say, oh, let's just put the 2 team out there. Oh, look, we lost in the first round. Done. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
it doesn't, to me, seem like you would have solved anything pulling out of it, personally. I mean, there's other guaranteed matches that you have, right? Like Leagues Cup is guaranteed 2 additional matches. And then even if you bomb out in the first round, you can't do anything productive with that time other than just rest up.
I guess they could change the format of the league altogether in terms of the schedule.
Oh man, Gavin,
because
have you considered listening to Meeting the Minds episode 2, where we discuss this exact topic? It's like
Apparently, I wasn't needed on that episode.
Well, Gavin, it's not that you weren't needed. I told you could be there if you wanted.
That's true. I don't believe
you,
but it's true. So there's 15 teams in the East, 14 teams in the West. So you could do it where everyone plays each other once. No. Yeah, everyone plays each other's once. So that brings us down to what, 28 games in the season? Wouldn't be ideal. Maybe you could do like 2 for your rivals. But that would decrease the number of games. You could do everyone plays home and away, which we already do, and they're inside their conference. But then maybe outside conference decreases to maybe 1 or 2 games in the season instead of what we're at now, which I think is 3 or 4. No, that's more than that. I think there's a little more than that. But yeah,
Can I get
so
an instant reaction from you to Tim's idea?
yeah, sure.
Tim's idea that we discussed on that Meeting in the Minds episode 2. Start with kind of like an almost Liga MX style apertura, where you have teams playing essentially each other, right, for a first half of the season. Your best half of the league goes into a bracket called the MLS Cup, where they play each other for the rest of the season. And the lower half of that bracket goes into the Challengers Cup. And depending on where you finish in the Challengers Cup, maybe you then go into like kind of a either Champions Cup slot, or maybe you like play for the right to go feed into a tournament at the end of the season, something in there. But you have to find some way to give relevance to that lower area, right? So still incentivize that. And then otherwise, if you win the MLS Cup side of things, then you get a significant advantage for the end of the season. Maybe you only have to play 1 or 2 matches to lift the trophy instead of having to play maybe like 3 or 4.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a plausible idea. Lowers the amount of games, like you said.
It
I
does.
I think that could work.
Go,
Or
go listen to Tim's idea though, because he explains it better than I do in 10 seconds.
yeah, he's pretty good. Or and hear me out. MLS 2, 15 teams each, standard league season, everyone plays each other home and away. 29, 30 games, whatever that comes out to. Promotion relegation.
Oh. Go listen to the
League champions, no more playoffs.
Oh, Gavin. Go listen to the episode.
League champions, no more playoffs. Open Cup becomes way more prioritized by everyone. Come on now. Come on.
I
Whatever.
think Tim does an excellent job of breaking down exactly why that won't happen.
Yes, I know. It's against the owner's wishes, and the owners are the ones making the decisions, and yada yada.
Yeah.
I think there's money in it. I think there's money in promotion relegation.
I think you
And it's right there. Fans will still follow their team. The quality will still be very close. It's almost like the separation's already there if you think about it.
the separation is
Top 7
there.
of each conference is like those are your good teams, and then your bad teams are the bottom half of the conference. It's really already there. It's just a matter of putting them in separate leagues and making them play each other, and then some teams go up and down.
Yeah, I think there's so many hurdles, but again, I love Tim's way of explaining it, where it's not necessarily the fact that promotion relegation is the question so much as it is people bought in to MLS under the idea that they were guaranteed to have at least the opportunity to, say, play against Miami or play against like the next Beckham when they go to Galaxy or something like that. Maybe you're a team in the Western Conference and you don't get slotted against Miami, but you're guaranteed the opportunity to be slotted against Miami. If you got relegated, you've lost that opportunity.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. It's true.
I think whether or not they actually get the, say, Messi effect, just even being in the same conversation is what they want. Which, Gavin, I hate to say this, but it does take me to a second evergreen topic for us, which is how much is too much? Have we officially crossed the threshold? Is there too much Messi now finally happening for MLS? For some context, Miami played some matches in Saudi Arabia against, I believe, who was it? Al Ali and Al Nasir? I want to say,
Yep.
I know
Yep.
Al Nasir was one of them. I think it was Al Ali was the other one.
I believe so.
And they lost horrifically. to Al Nassr. They lost narrowly to Al Ali, and in general, I believe they are
All
prior.
halal. Sorry.
Oh, Al Halal.
All
There you go.
halal.
Sorry,
Yeah.
thank you for fact checking me, Gavin. Point being, they were prior to going to Hong Kong winless in 11 matches. Went to Hong Kong. Messi was unavailable. Did not play. Fans were upset. They were booing, chanting for refunds. They didn't get to see the person they paid all this money for. It's, I think, a question now of, do fans have a negative perception of MLS, or is it that they have a negative perception of Inter Miami? And when does this sort of antic become too much? Because it can happen one time, right? Messi's human. He's not going to play every match. We all know that. But if we get to a point where it's like, the NBA, where you pay all this money to go to an NBA game and the stars are like, oh, they're not playing tonight, it's load management. Do you still want to pay those prices? Do you still want to follow the sport? Do you still want to watch? Or are you going to be bitter about it? Is it going to, start to harbor this feeling where it's like, well, they're getting paid all this money. They can go out and they can play soccer twice a week.
Yeah, I think for some people that is the feeling that they'll get, and I don't blame them. Pay all this money, he doesn't show up, you wasted your money essentially. So yeah, absolutely. I think to answer the question, I think it already is too much. Honestly, this world tour, I get it. Take advantage, milk the cash cow, all the things. Right. But is this what a serious club does? What a serious league does? This is what I keep going back to that word, unserious. It's just, I'm sorry I keep going back there, listeners. It just feels so unserious. I don't like it. Yes.
Wait, Gavin, you and I, both Arsenal fans, what did Arsenal do in the summer last year? They came to the United States. They played a bunch of friendlies all over for high ticket prices against teams that were in mid-season while they were in preseason. They played at the MLS All-Stars match in DC. They trotted out, they put out this lineup of people they said were going to play. Martin Odegaard was on there. He did not play. They put in Jurriën Timber instead, I think, or someone else that they pulled Odegaard out to load manage or whatever, and they put another player in. I think Balogun also made an appearance there as well. And it's like, is anyone calling Arsenal not a serious team?
Here's the difference. Arsenal is already one of the biggest teams on the planet, and wherever they go, they will make money. It's a very common thing. They've been going on preseason tours for decades at this point. Miami's the first MLS team to get, star treatment and go on one of these tours. We've never really seen it before, right?
Right.
And they're fleecing their players. They're fleecing these players for these tours, and the players aren't even expected to last the whole season, even if they didn't go on these preseason tours, on this preseason tour. So when I say unserious, it's more. It's the gimmick, what was the word you used? The not antique. You used a fancy word that started with an A. But essentially, it's a gimmick, right? It's a sales thing, and so I want to see competitiveness. That's what it comes down to. I think it's too much. To answer your question, I think we are at the point of where it's too much, and maybe I'm just a hater.
I think you're being a hater.
Maybe I'm just being a hater.
I think on the topic of a world tour, I think you're being a hater. Just because I have a hard time legitimately critiquing them when they're doing, to your point, kind of a cash grab, charging high prices, going all over, trotting players out during preseason. I think the only difference is when Arsenal trots out players during preseason, they have 25, 30 people that they take, and they're all starters on almost every single team globally, except maybe the top 10, 20 teams in the world.
I get the world tour. I get the
Yeah.
world tour. I think
about-
they
It's about
overdid
connecting
it.
with people. But they did it to the same extent as everyone else, and I agree with you for the record. They, they are. It's a lot. I think it's tons of Miami, and it will, at a certain point, I think, start to push existing fans away of MLS domestically. But
Miami played El Salvador, Dallas, Al Hilal, Al Nasir, Hong Kong. They have Vissel Kobe up next.
right,
And then they go to Argentina and play Newell's. That is not standard. They are literally doing a world tour. Literally. So, like, no, what other team does a world tour? Bayern Munich do, preseason camps, and then they might fly somewhere and do a friendly. Arsenal go to Indonesia or to
and then they go to Saudi Arabia, and then they come to
Dubai.
the United States, and
No, they do that over multiple seasons. No. They do not fly around the world.
I want you to look up some of their tours, Gavin. I bet you it's a lot more extensive.
No. Arsenal preseason tours. It is usually one a season. One a preseason.
Well, I mean, there's only one tour for a preseason. Yes, you're correct in that regard.
Yeah, but it's usually at like one place.
I wish we could use Barcelona as an example, but as of lately, they are very much not a serious club. When they started selling off future revenue and pulling all these levers and still didn't bring back Messi and all that. So
I get it. I get the tour.
Right.
I think we're at the point where it's too much. I think that's all I'm saying. It's the amount of touring. Okay.
I do agree with you, for the record. I think it is a lot of touring. It is going to be a lot. My, I guess, follow-up question to let you expound on this more. When does enough become enough to the point that domestic MLS fans start to get turned off from the league?
From the league?
Mm-hmm. Like, if, let's say I am let's say I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, and all I see all day, every day, is advertisements for the Chiefs. Or, whatever. But it's usually the Chiefs because Patrick Mahomes is the league's darling. When does enough become to the point that, like, you're either A, actively rooting against the Chiefs, or B, you're just like, I don't even care anymore because the Chiefs are, the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, great, whatever, not going to watch it, don't even want to witness them. Does something like that happen for MLS at any point with Miami? Or do they become the big evil empire that everyone tunes in to watch and hope they lose? And maybe you get hate watching, but a viewer is still a viewer.
I think there'll definitely be hate watching. For me, I actually saw this a little bit in this preseason when the league started putting out videos of pretty standard chances that Messi and Suarez created. I think there was like one or two of them. And they just put out like a little clip of it. And I think the caption was just like, oh, Messi's heating up or whatever. And if they do that over the course of a season, I think people will get tired of and it will look like the league only cares about Messi. They don't care about any of the other clubs. And that's what will turn people off from the league, is a perception of unequal favor. And obviously there will be unequal favor, as there should be. He's Lionel Messi, he's Luis Suarez, he's Sergio Busquets, he's Jordi Alba, blah, 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 blah. But there still needs to be content and love given to all the other teams that play in the league. And so I think if the balance shifts too much and it's just all Messi all the time, and then people are going to get turned away from the league. And I think that could happen easily just a couple weeks into the season if it's too much too fast and not enough on the other side.
It's very fair.
What do you think? What do you think?
I think, look, I obviously have a number of group chats. I have a number of different people that I talk to and get different perspectives on. There does seem to be a commonality that people who already follow MLS pre-Messi are sick of hearing about Messi. And I need to see more. I need to see more data on people who didn't follow MLS or maybe even soccer in general pre-Messi who are now following. And maybe the question is just, do they stay? Because I mean, if these people stay, right? If the new fans who are coming in and becoming interested because of Messi and because of the name recognition stay, then it's hard for me to say this was unsuccessful. At which point I can say, look, it was unpleasant maybe for me as a fan. However, we've expanded the fan base. You've built a stronger, richer culture with more people. And maybe it's a bitter pill you have to swallow for a couple years. Maybe. If you do all this and none of them stay, becomes a different question. I think for me, I don't know if I can evaluate it right now. And I don't want to make it sound like that's a cop out because it feels like a cop out in the moment. But I don't know what the effect is going to be on non-soccer people. I think on soccer people, we follow enough of it that probably we're sick of it. But I don't think that's why they're pushing Messi. They're not pushing Messi to get soccer people interested.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, we're over 40 minutes, so we gotta
over 40 minutes.
Gotta move on.
No,
I'm sure you got one topic left.
No, that was my topic. That was my evergreen topic. Was talking about Messi.
You have nothing on Duncan McGuire saga.
Who? I
Nothing?
don't know who that is. Yeah,
Nothing.
Gavin. What
Nothing
is going
on Duncan McGuire saga.
Okay. All right, fine. You've really twisted my arm, Gavin. Right?
Quick.
All right, so
quick.
Highlight, drama, insanity recap. Duncan McGuire was going to Blackburn Rovers or Sheffield Wednesday from Orlando City. The transfer reportedly fell apart when Blackburn was like, nope, not interested anymore. Duncan McGuire was already on a plane at that point. Anyways, he lands. They come back. They're like, actually, we are interested. And they supposedly got all the paperwork finalized and the deal went through. Except then later we find out, well, actually, apparently they didn't do the paperwork right. And now he might not be going to Blackburn or anywhere for that matter because it was done incorrectly. Gavin, Duncan McGuire plays for Orlando City. You support Orlando City. Instant reaction, and do you ever plan to have Orlando City appear in the same sentence as Blackburn Rovers without the word not doing business with ever again, or rather the words appearing between those two names?
Yeah, just absolute insanity. Always have to remember that we're talking about the person, Duncan McGuire, and his family. So all this jerking around has got to be really frustrating. He's probably looking at houses. He's probably talking to his family, getting ready to move. He's all packed up. Big move across the Atlantic Ocean, and all of a sudden you're hearing, oh, there's been a mishap. Just devastated. He's always wanted to play in Europe, as many soccer players do. Right now, he's missing out on that dream.
Through no
and you
fault
never
of
know,
his own, for that matter.
No fault of his own. You never know if you're going to get that chance again. You never know, ever. He could come back. He could play a game. He could tear his ACL. He's never going to Europe. So, it's really harsh. We hope that doesn't happen. But it is hectic. It's crazy. Blackburn Rovers have a history of doing this. They did this with Nottingham Forest last year, similar but different scenario, where again they tried to sign a player late on, some issue with paperwork, but a different piece of paperwork that they messed up on last time, I believe. And so yeah, it's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. Orlando City seemed to be moving forward with signing Luis Muriel, even though we're likely getting Duncan back unless the championship
the appeal goes through.
Yeah, the appeal works. But we're moving forward with that deal. Look, on the playing side of things, it'd be kind of nice to have McGuire and Muriel for the first half of the season, just so we have Duncan there, and he can help kind of, maybe he can start the first few games while we're in Champions Cup. Muriel can come in off the bench, and then maybe Muriel can take the starting spot, or maybe it's the other way around, and Muriel starts as he's going to be the star forward. Big name. Duncan McGuire can come off the bench and be a really, really competent backup and take 40 minutes off of him, that sort of thing. So it'd be good on the field for him to come back to Orlando, even if it's only till June. But yeah, it's really unfortunate for him as a human being. Feel for him.
Yeah, it's been such a weird winter window too for so many players in general, and I can't help but wonder if maybe that potential specter of actual financial fair play enforcement is hovering over some of the teams that would normally be kind of triggering this domino effect of players moving around. And a lot of it kind of hinges on these big money moves. Some team like, I don't know, Chelsea or Arsenal or Manchester City or United or someone, anyone in that Premier League area will lay out big money on a player. And when these teams put out enough money, it kind of says, hey, I now have a need for another player for these non-Premier League teams. And they say, well, I've got a bunch of money and I have a transfer window that I can operate in. So let me go out and find this replacement in winter. And so there's this kind of very small scale shuffling, not to the level that summer is over there, but still a shuffling of sorts. That didn't really happen this year. And
yeah, no, there wasn't Chelsea paying Brighton for Caicedo, Brighton going to League One and getting some young star, and going to Colombia and getting a star, and paying a little bit of a we play in the Premier League tax, and extra couple million on top there. Thank you very much, and then they go and get their play. Yeah, none of that happened. You're right. Throughout the whole transfer window, so.
Yeah, I mean, look, Kai Wagner stayed in MLS. He went back to Philly. Alvaro
Robinson?
Barreal stayed in MLS, and I guess stayed with FC Cincinnati. Robinson stayed in MLS, moved to FC Cincinnati. I mean, a lot of these players, I think, would have been looking for and optimistic for a move, and maybe those moves were there for them, but the teams that needed them or could afford to bring them in probably could not afford to do so on wages and transfers that align with where they're at now or where they think they should be. If you're, say, Miles Robinson and you're in MLS and you're making 1.3 million, right? And you go and some team in, I don't know, the Eredivisie says we'll pay a 450,000. You're probably not going to move there if another team in MLS says, well, we'll pay a 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 million, right? That would be
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Money talks, yeah.
I hate to say it, but yeah, money does talk.
Yeah. So, I agree. Okay.
Anything else you want to bring up? Look, Gavin, I tried to help you earlier.
Yeah.
I tried to cut us off, and then
I think we're good.
Okay.
A lot of transfers going on, but I'm sure we'll cover that in the future. I think we're good.
Yeah. All right. Well,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Gavin. And, thank you as always to everyone who's tuned in live to watch us here on YouTube. Thank you, everyone who continues to listen after we finally get this edited and put out. I know this is a little bit shorter of an episode this week. I hope you had a chance to go listen to a longer meeting of the minds. Gavin says sorry. He's muted, so you can't hear him right now. He's nodding his head, of course. He's now saying,
My bad.
You can blame me for everything. Baby, come back. You can blame it all on me. And he's muted, so he can't refute me. Perfect. Well, as always, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. You can find the podcast on social media at MLS Now Podcast. You can find Gavin on social media at Lions Blog One. You can find me on social media at Mr. Danger Russ. We are so very, 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 very close to the MLS season being back. And in the meantime, you can enjoy some Champions Cup action. So, with that said, go enjoy some soccer. And Gavin, listeners, till next time.
Till next time.